Okay. Drum line ready? Live from Huntertown, Indiana, it's Soarin on the air. So here we are again this week, and we got a few things to talk about before we get to today's subject. So, hope everybody's staying nice and safe out there. It's a little snowy, a little slick. A lot of people are checking out birds from their ditches that they're in right now. So hope these guys all get themselves extricated and get back on the road. So first announcement is, of course, we have two vultures. One has the name of Air. The other one doesn't have a name, right? So we're going to let it up to you, the audience, to choose a name for our bird. Well, not exactly. We'll give you three choices, okay? So anyway, we're going to give you three choices. We're going to give you the choice of Sky, Poe is in Edgar Allan, and Shadow, all right? Which one do you like? You like any of them? No, he's not too sure. Okay, so if you want to vote or be polled, all right, you just go on our Facebook website, all right, or I'm sorry, Facebook, page, today through next Wednesday, all right, and choose the new name, all right? So everybody has a chance, and then next week we'll bring him in or her, and we'll baptize her with her new name. So how do you feel about a baptism? Not too sure about that. So anyway, name our new vulture, and she's doing very, very well in the training, aren't you? Yeah. So you'll be all ready for the spring when we get rid of all those COVID things and we get back out into the wild and go back to the schools and things like that. So I'm going to talk about today's topic, and today's topic is snowy owls. About 2 weeks ago, we brought in this fellow, and a CO up in LaGrange County found this bird. It was caught on a fence. They had to, on a barbed wire fence, and this unfortunately happens to a lot of the low-flying birds like the snowy owls and sometimes even great horned owls, things like that, and they get caught on these fences. So anyways, they cut the fence apart and brought the bird in and extricated it from the fence, and then Bill went up there, picked up the bird, brought it in, and as you can see, the bird was a little grabby and took off the towel that was in the bottom of the carrier, and so he took that, and also, as I understand, she has an amazingly strong grip, and when I saw Bill with it, he still had little tears in his eyes. So, even with those Kevlar gloves, these guys are really, really strong. So right now she's in rehab, and so to keep the stress down on her, we're not going to drag her out or anything like that today. But we are going to talk about snowy owls. And here's one. I got one over here. Let me bring this one in. Okay. This nice female snowy owl came to us from Minnesota, and this was struck by a car, which is one of the unfortunate things for these birds. So today we're going to talk about snowy owls, and if my cameraman can keep up with me, we'll really do real well. So these are fantastic birds, and so am I too low for you?
Mm-mm.
Or would you rather I stand?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Here. Okay.
I'm fine.
So these are fantastic birds. When you see them up on the tundra out there flying like this, it's really great. So they go by a lot of different names. Of course, we call them the snowy owls. Some people call them the white owls, like the white owl cigars. If you're as old as me, you might remember those. So, one of the things was have a white owl. And then they go by a lot of other ghost bird. Some of the natives, the Eskimos up north there, have all kinds of names. Or there's something like 23 different names for these guys in the different Inuit languages. So let's talk a little bit about snowy owls. As you can see, okay, pretty good sized bird, all right? So the males tend to be about 24 inches tall, 22 to 24 inches tall, have a 4 or 5 inch or 5 foot wingspan. So they have really big wings. Males weigh about 3.5 pounds, and they're mostly white. In fact, when they're born, they actually have brown markings or when they're hatched, I guess the babies are gray until they mold out those the baby feathers, and then they get their white plus the brown markings. And as they age, they become paler and paler and paler until they almost go completely white. Whereas the females tend to keep this spotted coloration. The females are bigger, and of course they're bigger because they're the ones that have to sit on the nest. They're the ones that have to lay the eggs, that kind of thing. So they're a little bit bigger, about 26 inches, and they have a 5.5 foot. They even have some records of some 6 foot wingspans on these guys. So they're a big bird, okay, and go up to 4.5 pounds. In fact, the one we have weighed a little over 4 pounds. So she's in good shape, you know. You know, and of course they're white with that heavy black spotting. All right, so we call it black, but if you really look at it closely, it's really a dark brown color, and so it's black and brown. So it's really a dark color. And of course, they want to have this because they want to blend in as much with the ground as possible. So you know. Then when you have a mask on, you can't lick your fingers, so you pull the paper apart.
Yeah.
So here's a pair of snowy owls sitting up, and you can see the male's nice and white, and the female is all spotted like that. So nice little picture. Keep wanting to lick my fingers and get these papers apart. Yeah. Of course, you know. So snowy owls have an enormous range, and they're basically an Arctic bird. So if you take a look at looking down on the North Pole, you can see that the bird's breeding range is here in the red, okay, so it's along the edge of the Arctic Ocean, okay, in the tundra area, so there's no trees or anything like that. You might have some willow bushes and things like that, but you don't have any real trees. And then there might be a few perches there that are left over of stuff that's washed up on the beaches and that kind of thing. In fact, yeah, so the red is breeding areas, okay, so you can see they're all the way from Iceland all the way across and around through Greenland, northern Canada, across Alaska, and then back through around over Siberia, Manchuria, those places. So really widespread. The blue area, okay, the blue on here is the normal dispersal range. In other words, after breeding is over, after the babies are raised, then they move south into other places because once winter comes on up in the Arctic, there's everything, all the prey and everything has gone to ground and is hiding away for the winter and is hard to find, okay? And then the green areas, sometimes where the birds occasionally occur when we have what they call an eruption. In other words, birds moving out for one reason or another, and we'll discuss that a little later. So the green areas are places where you can expect to see them occasionally from time to time. They're not regularly occurring, you know. So anyways, just to give you an idea of size, this is our snowy owl, of course, and you compare it to our great horned owl. Okay, this is Athena, and Athena isn't too sure about this. She says, I've never seen a white bird like that before. So anyway, so hang on to her tight, okay?
I do.
Yeah, you look all frosted up there.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Well, we're not too sure. Okay, so baby Athena here. She's, you know, but Athena's a good size great horned owl. So I think she's on the large size for a great horn, and even she's small compared to the snowy owl. So you enjoying that? Okay, that's a little bit different. Yeah. So anyways, back to talking about our snowy owls. They're basically a diurnal bird. Okay, so they breed up and they nest up in the area where you have the land of the midnight sun. All right, so it's sunny all day. The food is out there running around, breeding. The grasses and sedges and stuff like that's growing, and that's food for the prey. And so there's lots of prey running around, and so they're diurnal. So even when they come down here, that's why we see them out a lot. You know, we don't have to go hunting for them at night because they're really not nighttime hunters, even though they do have a keen sense of hearing. They can actually hear voles and things under the snow, you know, over a foot deep. So, and they can go out there and catch them. So, let's see, they prefer open spaces, you know, so they have, they like these nice fields and things up there, nice tundra area. So they get on a little hump or something like that or a rock, and they'll perch on that and look out to see, find their prey. So they're really not a bird that goes soaring around looking for prey. They're actually one that just sits there and waits and sees what they can find. One of the things is that they do follow the prey. They don't nest in areas where there's no prey. So what they do is wherever's a good area where there seems to be apparently a lot of prey being generated, then they go to those areas to have their nest. And like I said, they have very keen senses. They have very good eyesight, like all owls do. And again, they have a very keen sense of sound, so they can go out there and go through the snow and get some of the critters. And so a snowy owl in 1 year can eat about 1,600 lemmings. So that's quite a bit of food. A lemming probably weighs in there at about a half a pound or so. So they're good sized critters to eat, and they'll eat about 4 to 5 a day. Okay, so not as big as our rats, but they're a good sized critter. And here's a snowy owl going after a vole. What you hear there? Okay, lots of noise in the background. So so they eat quite a bit of these lemmings. You know what? I need wet fingers or something so I can get these pages apart. So some other things you ought to know about them. They're monogamous. All right. They basically they get a mate at the beginning of the year, and so they have a fantastic courtship where the male will go up in the air and circle around and do all kinds of wind dances and that kind of thing. And if possible, what he does is he goes finds a lemming, and he goes past the female and he drops it off to her. Sometimes they'll catch it in midair. Sometimes he just so it's dance, a dinner, and courtship. Okay, great. Kind of like humans. All right. So anyway, they're ground nesters, and basically they just make a depression in the vegetation and in the ground. So they use their bodies to shape the nest, and they settle in. The female will lay between 3 and 11 eggs. The number of eggs that are laid, even with some of our, with the birds down here, is based on the amount of prey that's available. So even down here, great horned owls, if it doesn't look like there's enough prey available, maybe you only lay 2 eggs. If there's a lot of prey, 4 eggs. So the birds somehow can sense the amount of prey that's going to be available for the season, and then lay the number of eggs correctly so that they can raise the kids. And incubation lasts a month. So mom sits on the eggs for a month. She doesn't leave the nest. So this is a little bit different than a lot of our birds, where the female may leave the nest for a short period of time. The male may take over and sit on the eggs or keep them warm while she's gone. But in this case, she just sits there, and the male brings her food.
That's nice.
So that's kind of nice. So this is a snowy owl nest, okay? And what happens is the male brings her lemmings, and he caches the food all around her nest. So so here are the eggs laying inside, and here are the lemmings on the outside. So you figure these lemmings are about that big, all right? So it's about that big. So in this case, they say normally they'll cache out at about 10 to 15 lemmings, but they found one that actually had 83 lemmings. So he was a good provider.
She had a good pantry.
So she had a good pantry there. And a lot of times what these guys will do is they'll have a second cache available that's away from the nest. So a male may have 1 or 2 other caches of lemmings. If he's a good hunter, he's a good provider, and so he'll have food around, because after the eggs are hatched, within 3 weeks, the nestlings are moving away. So, okay, there we go. Next topic. So the chicks disperse after 3 weeks, and they're cute little buggers, all nice and gray, and they lick their moms and everything. And they start flying within 10 weeks, so they can, so what they do is when they disperse from the nest, they go and they hide in the hedges and stuff like that. They may, one guy says, they just toddle around on the tundra. But mom and dad are there to protect them. So, so they're very aggressive. The snowy owls, they take on Arctic foxes, even Arctic wolves. So, and
wow.
people, they don't care for it. All right, so if you go near their nest, somebody's going to get hurt. But I've been up in the tundra region, and it's really neat, because any kind of anything that sticks up, they just kind of watch you, and they just go, okay, that's fine, and you get out there, and it's really neat with the little Arctic flowers and stuff like that on the ground. Nothing's above, 6 inches, except for the little boggy spaces. And then you just have to watch those. So, anyways, they care for the young for another 10 weeks. Okay, so they take care of them. But once the young are taken care of, and then they're taught, to hunt and that kind of thing, and how to hide and protect themselves. Then mom and dad say, okay, that's fine, that's it. So they have a long, warm summer up there. You'd be surprised how hot it gets out there on the tundra, say in July. Because you have that midnight sun out there, and it's really warm. So here's a cute family picture. Okay.
Aw.
So oh, isn't he cute? Okay. So yeah, it's so cute. I'll tear your face off later. So let's see what else we got here. We got all kinds of stuff about snowy owls. Nobody's asking any questions yet.
No,
That's good.
no questions yet.
No questions yet. Okay. So one of the questions is, of course, people ask about eruptions. We're not talking about pimples or acne or anything like that. We're talking about movement of the birds into an area that they're normally not found. And there are several reasons for eruptions of birds. But for the snowy owl, they occur an eruption, besides the casual movement, an eruption might occur about once every 4 years. And it's caused by an overabundance of owls. Okay, so what happens is if you have a good productive year of lemmings and voles and stuff like that on the tundra, you have a lot of eggs that are laid. You have a lot of eggs, that means you got a lot of snowy owls. Okay, so what happens is you got all these snowy owls, and somebody has to move out of the way to allow some hunting and stuff. So they start moving down. In fact, one of the things, the theory used to be that they were starving birds that are starving. Well, as we could tell by our girl, she's not starving. She came in on the heavy side. Okay, so she was over 4 pounds. So she wasn't starving, and what they found out is that the snowy owls that are coming down every year weigh on the heavy side. They're all fat. So they've been good hunters. They know what they're doing. So they move on into this area, and but during an eruption, you get a whole bunch of them. Now there are other birds that sometimes move into an eruption. Things like great gray owls, hawk owls, boreal owls, things like that. But they're primarily driven by the fact that there's no food. And in fact, right now we're seeing a lot of finches coming down. I think if you go onto the internet, you can find out that we're having an eruption of finches. There's things like evening grosbeaks and pine siskins and red poles and stuff like that are coming down. And the reason is, oh, not again. Jeez. I think you had her better trained than that. We won't tell you what she just did, okay? I'm talking about the owl. Okay. So anyways, so they're erupting, but that's mainly because it's been it was kind of a dry summer. A lot of the fir trees and stuff, the conifers didn't produce seeds, and so a lot of that food wasn't available to the birds, and so those birds are now moving down from Canada over to the East Coast and places like that. So there's been a few reports of even grosbeaks around here. I right now have about 30 pine siskins in my yard, and so that's kind of a little unusual. And so there's a movement. But with the owls this year, it's not really a true eruption. There are some guys that are down, and you can go out there and look around some of the farm fields. Remember, you're looking for areas, if you want to see snowy owls, you're looking for areas that are flat and open, like big winter wheat fields. Be one place to look, maybe even some cornfields. Airports are great because they keep the areas all mowed and everything, so it's low and that kind of thing. So anyways, some advice about going and looking for winter owls. Enjoy the moment, okay? It's a real thrill to see these birds, okay? And appreciate the experience, especially if you can share it with somebody. Right now we can't exchange much, but because we all have to wear these masks and stuff like that. So but don't forget, respect the birds, okay? Because they're wild animals, and they should be respected. And you don't have nowadays You know, you got these big howitzer lenses on your cameras. You can take nice pictures. You don't have to get up in the owl's face and intimidate them. And then, one of the things, one of the worst things over here in Harlan a couple of years ago, we had a nice snowy owl out there in the field. Everybody was enjoying it. Then somebody had to go and drive out onto the field, chase the bird. The bird went across the highway and got hit by a car. Okay, so nobody got to, so just, respect the birds. Okay, in fact, if you get caught, it's a healthy fine. Okay, maybe you jail time. Respect other people's property. Just because a farmer has a field out there and the ground's frozen and you can drive your vehicle across there doesn't mean that you can do that kind of thing. So have respect for the farmer, his property, and also have respect for the bird, and also have respect for others. Others might want to enjoy seeing the bird. So don't go chasing the birds. Just enjoy the moment. If you only just get a little, fine. But you don't need to have a lot. So let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, we got the last one. So this is about what you're seeing right now. If you go up there around the Goshen Airport, there's one there that can be seen. I know if you look on the websites, snowstorm, it appears like there's 10 snowy owls there. No, there's one snowy owl and 10 observers. Okay, so it's not exactly 10 birds. So this is what you might be able to see, down there along some farms. And, be observant. And, oh, by the way, on I-69, there's a white paint bucket sitting on a post just north of Auburn. It is not an owl. Several people have stopped to look at that owl, so,
Or the Walmart bag that's out in the field.
Or the Walmart bag that's out in the field or something like that. But enjoy the moment. Enjoy the excitement of seeing one of these guys. You may not be able to get up there to the tundra to see these, but you can appreciate what this bird goes through, what this bird does, how much this bird has traveled to get down here, so that you might have a little bit of excitement in your life. And so enjoy nature. All these birds, all of them out there. It doesn't matter if it's some that are resident to us, enjoy those. Again, like I said, you got your fancy cameras and everything like that. You don't need to harass the birds. And the other thing is, like I remind people, don't go and use tapes and things like that to try to attract the birds. Okay, so so you don't have to do that, because you attract the birds, you might get one angry snowy owl that'll come after you. Okay, so that's my little story for today. And if you come back next week, we're going to be talking about the vulture. In fact, Lynn's going to be here. That's the vulture's mommy. Okay, and so, hey, what are you doing to her?
She's trying to preen me.
Oh, she's preening you. Okay, okay, she's preening you. So for you folks out there, don't forget, we have the Raptor Adventure. You can come out here and visit us, and bring your family. Have a couple families coming out next week. These are Christmas presents to their family, and they're bringing out their grandkids or their or other family members as a big surprise. It's also a nice birthday present, So come on out for the Raptor Adventure. You give me a call, or go to our website and go to info@soarinhawk.org to request more information. So we can take care of you, accommodate you, and all the people out here.